boy, I wonder if Jordan's rethinking helping us out with our show based on the takes right now. Look, he's an exciting player. I've had fun watching Jordan Poole, and I will forever respect somebody who goes from late in the first round to sort of like brushed aside, goes to the G League. Every report we've heard and things that we know. Jordan Poole is one of the hardest workers on this team. So nothing I'm saying today is out of disrespect to Jordan Poole and how he's built himself.
Yeah.
However, do I think that Jordan Poole, and this is not a blame or fault, is he at the center? Is he the epicenter of the divide on this team?
Is he at the epicenter of the divide?
My answer is yes.
My answer is no.
Why?
Because he's a young player. Now, if he is at the epicenter of the divide, I don't think that it's his fault that he's at the epicenter of the divide.
I agree.
I think that the divide comes from... So, is he at the epicenter of the divide? Maybe. And I think I will allow that. Well, in terms of... And I'm having a hard time with it, Mark, because if he's at the epicenter, then by proxy, it feels like it's his fault. And I don't think that it's his fault.
No, it's
so
not his
I'm going to agree with you that he is at the epicenter,
but
I'm going to say it's not his fault.
Right.
He got paid $128 million in the offseason, and before that, Draymond Green openly asked for a max contract extension, and I don't know if the organization laughed at Draymond Green, but they didn't entertain his thoughts in terms of what he wanted, and I'm sure that frustrated Draymond Green. So Jordan Poole gets a bag. Jordan Poole gets popped in the face in a practice in preseason, and whatever carryover effect from that, we will never know. But what we do know is this. The way Jordan Poole plays basketball doesn't necessarily jibe with the way Steph, Clay, and Draymond want him to play basketball.
Yeah.
And Jordan Poole has become a very good NBA player. He's developed his game in a very fast way. He's become a, quote, real one. But he hasn't really developed in the way that this team wants him to develop in terms of ball movement, player movement, and all the rest of it. So is he at the epicenter of the divide? Yes, he is. But it's not his fault. And I also will say it's not his fault that this team is one game above 500. I blame Steph, Clay, and Dre long before I blame Jordan Poole.
That's interesting. This is literally one of those situations where, and I know we love to do this, we're almost forced to do it, to decide who's to blame.
That's what we do as humans.
I know, but I'm not sure blame is the right word when it comes to this. We've talked a lot about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens the last 2 weeks. Who do you blame? I don't blame really anyone. I can actually sit in a room with either one of them and go, yep, totally get your point.
Yeah.
Like, the Browns are stupid. I get it.
That's a tougher one for
me. And
me.
Lamar's like, but Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson are getting paid this, and so I should get paid that. And I'm like, yep, you're right, too. And
yeah.
So I totally understand why you guys...
I see that.
Right, so with the Warriors, it's sort of like what I said during the changeover. These are understandable mistakes because there's no way that you could have predicted two things. You could not predict they were going to win it all last year. You thought the core was done winning titles. You did. And guess what? Almost everybody else did too, if we're really going to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah,
you believed
I thought it was within the realm of possibility.
Right.
Sure.
I didn't think it was. And, and maybe this year is the year where I'm proven right because I've said all year this year that I don't believe that they're a real championship contender. And, coming off of last night and coming off of a soft Tuesday in OKC, it's looking more and more like I might be right. I don't want to be right. I'm a diehard Warrior fan. This is the one team that I love more than any other team in the Bay Area. When I look at who's to blame, and unfortunately, when a season goes the way this season's going, and you have all this championship pedigree, when I look at the reasons why you're not winning games, I don't look at the fourth-year guy who's only making $3.7 million. I look at the top first.
And that's fair. What I'm saying is, if I go to each individual in the room and say, if I were them, how would I have done it differently? If I were Steph, Clay, and Dre, I'd have totally done what they did. Why wouldn't you? They're like, yo, I got 2, 3, 4 years left in this career. We're elite. We're a dynasty. We just won it again. Go get us some pieces that matter for the rest of our careers. Why would those three care what the Warriors look like in 8 years?
They wouldn't. Why
am I going to ask them to care? Okay, so if that's their take, I get it. Now, if I'm Jordan Poole, why the hell what would I do differently? I'm young, I'm upcoming, I'm dynamic, I'm trying to get the money. I get it. Now, is he a little bit chirpy and cocky with his teammates? Maybe. Is that rare in the NBA? No.
It's not rare on that team.
Exactly. So,
and Draymond Green actually applauded that earlier in the year.
Jordan is totally allowed to have confidence in himself and want to get the bag and scream money time and build your career, young fella. Nothing wrong with that. Now, if I'm the front office, this is the one that I think gets people. What would you have them do? They do, in my opinion, they look flippy floppy. But I get it. Because at the beginning of the year, they wanted to both super serve the big three and preserve the future.
And they tried to do that. They brought in Dante DiVincenzo and JaMychal Green.
They did. And gave two young players. I know Wiggins is a little bit of a hybrid, but they gave two young players big contract extensions. They entered James Wiseman into the lineup.
Right.
They did all of these things that were to preserve the future. And the problem with the whole thing is they came out and stunk. And so, therefore, the big three ended up with more voice in the room, in my opinion, because they're like, hey, guys, we can't win with these pups. They don't know what they're doing yet, and we don't have time to wait. And then the organization flippy floppied, and they agreed. However,
see, I don't know if that's a flippy floppy. I think it's a pivot, not a panic, because you realize that Wiseman's not the sauce, and you got something for him, allegedly, if GP2 can ever play.
Yeah.
So I think that they went into it, like you're saying, with one mindset of, and they never have said the phrase 2 timelines. That was a media and fan creation, but the overarching feeling.
They lived it, though.
They absolutely lived it. And, Wiseman wasn't the guy. You got something for him, theoretically. And Kuminga, turns out he is a piece. Now, should you have played him more earlier or not? That, I don't know we can ever determine if he would have been better had he played more earlier. It turns out he's a good, solid piece. We don't know how long he'll be out. Moses Moody's the one that has me scratching my head.
Totally.
Because last year, 8 months ago, it felt like he was on the come, and now he's in Santa Cruz.
He done just lost his. Yeah, he lost his mojo.
Yeah, one last time.
He lost his mojo. There you go. For the people.
Thank you. For the people in the back.
It's like,
I'm going to miss that.
I see, Moses Moody is the Austin Powers of this team, man. He done lost his mojo. And
mojo.
Yeah, he's got to go find it. I don't know where it is. I don't think it's in Santa Cruz either, by the way. By the way, did you see Anthony Lamb's night last night in Santa Cruz?
No, he played again, huh? Did he go off?
It was the opposite. He was dreadful.
Oh, no.
0 for 6 from 3. I think he had like 6 points in almost 30 minutes. He was awful. I don't know if that matters or not. The pivot, as you put it, hasn't worked. That's the thing. If you're going to pivot, and for instance, the big pivot was, okay, fine, let's turn the number 2 pick in the draft into a damaged Gary Payton II. That was your pivot. And then you don't even get to play him. So whatever they've tried to do to cobble together a bench in the wake of these young guys not being good enough hasn't worked. And that's why they're 34 and 33. And so I don't know necessarily who's to use the word blame for that. I find it all an understandable version of this story. But the reason I use the epicenter of the divide on Jordan Poole, again, he didn't take that role. He just sort of is that. He's the best of the young core, and he's the one who got paid, and he's the one who plays an important role on this team. Therefore, he's the one who speaks for the young group, and he does it loudly and brashly, and therefore the big three know that they need to play with him, but we've watched repeatedly how sometimes that drives them up the wall. So he is the epicenter of the divide. He's the guy getting people to throw mouthpieces.
And he does take on some of the blame. And I don't think that you can look at this year so far, one game above 500, and use any word other than blame, because this team should be better than this. You should be better than this on the road with Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins when he plays, Looney, Poole, the rest of it. You should be better than this on the road, and you should be better than this in general. In a Western Conference that is replete with mediocrity, you should not be one of them. So when you look at it, I do think it's fair to assign blame. And I do think that Steve Kerr, and he would shoulder a lot of the blame as the coach, because for whatever reason, he has not gotten this team interested in playing defense.
Yeah.
And it's beyond Jordan Poole and offensively and the dysfunctionality of this team offensively. Last night, Mark, you gave up 48 points in the first quarter to a Memphis team that didn't have Ja Morant, its best scorer by far, Steven Adams, a big man who should have been giving you trouble. If you look at the guys who beat you last night, and I was listening to Bonte and Joe this morning, and every time Bonte does this, it makes me think about the fact that the Warriors have made stars out of guys that I've never heard of.
Oh my gosh,
this year.
repeatedly.
Last night it was Conchar and that guy whose name it starts with an A.
Yeah, the name that starts with an A. I can't tell you.
Almost. I got to Google it. Thank you.
Almost
Aldama.
Sure.
Conchar
By the
and
way,
Aldama.
every time that happened, like the TNT broadcast, because it's loud, and if you're in the other room, you're cooking some food or whatever, I kept thinking that they were saying Obama. I'm like, wait a minute. Did he get reelected? What? Wait, what happened? Like, they're like, for 3, Obama! And I'm like, wait, what's his name? But we've done that
Santi Aldama.
We've done this every game this year, it feels like. And sure, it's not every game, but almost every game. You might as well call it's a League Pass night.
Totally.
And what that means is, if you don't know, for me at least, what League Pass means is not what it means for you. It's not like, yeah, I got League Pass and I watch all the games. It's, let's get to know this dude you've never heard of, because tonight, he rocking 27 points.
Against the Warriors.
You're like, what?
Yeah, and that's where, in last night, it was Conchar and Aldama.
Yeah.
And I know they didn't, quote, lead the way, but...
He had 15 points off the bench, this Obama guy.
Thank you.
He had 15.
Thank you.
He had more than Dylan Brooks.
Thank you, Obama. Thank you, Aldama. It's tremendous. Next time we get Low Neal on, you got to have him. We got to have him do his Obama.
I know it's a good one.
It's not very good.
It's not very
hilarious.
good.
He just the way he does it. He does the forward increments.
It's a cadence.
It's about a cadence.
It's absolutely.
And the way he does it, though. He thinks that it's a 5 out of 5. It's really a 2. And I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Naaman who knew.
Thank you.
Every time Aldama put one in, I read his lips. He was like, yes, we can. And he would run down to the other end of the course.
Thank you. 48 points in the first, bro.
That's the stupidest thing. Like, I mean, what?
You said that this morning. What's stupid?
What point total do you just start laughing? To me, 33 is where you get annoyed. 38 is where you get angry.
40 is offensive.
42
is
offensive. 48 is, I'm like rolling
Stupid.
on, like ROFL. I'm rolling on the floor laughing. That's just dumb. 48 points in a quarter. I don't know if they could score that even if you just sat and watched.
Right. And I mentioned it in the changeover. The last 3 games, they were a -10 in the first quarter. And then you go out and you give up 20. So now they're a -15 over the last 3 games in first quarter point differential. They're 20th on the year in the association in first quarter scoring.
The Warriors need some change we can believe in.